Something we all have learned about the economy the last couple of years is the well-to-do, the top 10%, have been driving the economy. Some say they've been responsible for up to 50% of discretionary spending. It is my belief that the top 1%, and dare I say the top 1% of the 1%, are doing the lion's share of the heavy lifting. So I want to ask somebody whose clients are the top 1% of the 1%. Are they getting terrified? Are they pulling back? Or perhaps they're getting aggressive and looking for opportunities. Taylor from LifeGoal Investments, I want to know what the top 1% of the 1% are doing in this chaotic environment, because I'm guessing it's different than most of us who are running around with our head cut off. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're equally terrified. What say you?
No, I think you might be giving them a little too much credence.
They're people too. They're terrified.
They're totally normal. They're totally normal. A lot of them are business owners, and business owners are confused right now, and not from a lack of understanding of how economies work, et cetera, from a lack of messaging and a lack of clarity as to how things are going to affect their business. So I think that they are in the same scenario that all of the rest of us are in. And I think what a lot of people have come to the realization of over these past couple weeks is this is, thankfully not our clients. And I mean that because we came into this defensively positioned, because there was some writing on the wall and stocks were incredibly highly valued. And that was something that did not fall on deaf ears with us. But there are a lot of 60-year-olds right now that are realizing that they're investing like 50-year-olds. There are a lot of 50-year-olds that are realizing they're investing like 40-year-olds and on down the line. And some of it is their fault and some of it is their advisor's fault.
Agreed.
I think what you see in the rearview mirror is that over the past couple years, the potentially weaker advisors, and I don't mean that, I just mean from a like a stand your ground standpoint, have allowed their clients to become more and more S&P 500 like. And whether that
probably even more Mag 7 like.
Oh, 100%. 100. Well, those, I'll conflate those two together because the Mag 7 make up 35 or 30% of the S&P 500. So you're 100% correct. But yeah, it is shocking. I'll give you credit here. It is shocking how many people come to us with portfolios that are S&P 500 like, and then they take rifle shots on the Mag 7 on top. And it's like, oh, that's awesome.
yeah, just put all the chips on black. Forget about red. Just
correct. And you know what? In hindsight, it's been a great strategy. And some of it is the advisor's fault. Some of it's the client's fault. And the client has been forcing the feet of the advisor.
I want to hold you there. No, you and I are boys for a long time. At the end of the day, the advisor has a fiduciary duty.
You're 100% correct.
Right. And you're one of the things you should know is how old your client is. Are they 60? And are they behaving like a 40-year-old?
Yep.
Right. Because I have been through this a lot of times. And you always hear about the 65-year-old that was 1 year from retirement, who, oh, by the way, was investing like they were 40, that now has to work 4 more years because the bear market kicked him in the ass.
Yep.
If you're wealthy enough to have a Wall Street advisor, it is the advisor's job to terrify that client into being more diversified. And if they don't, it's the advisor's fault. Sorry. That's why you're good at what you do.
I think you are 100% correct. I will tell you this. There are scenarios as a financial advisor where and take this only for what it's worth, and you tell me whether this is acting as a fiduciary or not. You're not doing the perfect, correct thing for that client. You've messaged as much as you can, scared them as much as you can. Again, that's not really what we do, but you get the point what I'm getting at there.
Yep.
And they say, yes, but the numbers aren't there. I'm going to fire you. And so then do you make a decision to put them in a better situation than they will be if they do it on their own, knowing that it might not be the right, maybe directionally the wrong thing. And you are, now this is trying to play crystal ball of like, oh, do we add more equities now? Is that, no. So our answer to that is always no. Like, if you want to be a client, then we're going to tell you exactly what we think. We are going to tell you this is how we're going to manage your account. And you take it for what it's worth. If we deserve to get fired because we're not tracking the S&P 500 well enough, we haven't done a good enough job of messaging our values, what we do for you. and then we move on. But there are people that absolutely bend and break. And then what they are right now is now they're massively over their skis in equity risk and realizing the downside of it.
Well, I get it, right? Somebody who is serving the top 1% of the 1%, the people that have frankly made it, cubed, right?
Yep.
Those people likely come into this with large egos and try to push their weight around. There's no doubt that happens. But here's the deal. If you bend to that, you're going to lose that client anyways.
Eventually.
Because what will happen is 90 days, a year from now, 2 years from now, that bad event will happen and they're going to blame you anyway. Right. So
you're 100% right. You're 100% correct. Yeah. And I think that there are two schools of thought. Most of our clients are in the business of, I am incredible at making money at what I do. I've come to you after working with other financial advisors because I see the value in what you do. I see the clarity that you apply to the market, and you have a true process-driven investment approach. You stick to the process through thick and thin. There will be times where that process makes you look like an absolute genius, but there will not be times, this is important, where it makes us look like absolute fools. We won't look great at times, but we will never blow up. And that is the important thing. If we get another 30% year this year out of stocks, which I don't know if that's on anyone's bingo card, like, we're not keeping pace. That's the reality of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's only been one season where we had 3 years of double-digit growth, and I think that was coming out of the .com crash. But a third year of over 20% is highly unlikely. It's certainly coming from where we are, but that's just history. So I want to go back to the top 1% of 1%.
Yep. Yeah.
It seems like what you're telling me is they're not being aggressive. They're quote unquote not making moves. So would it be fair to say that the top 1% are very much in asset preservation mode at the moment?
I think that's a fair assessment. I think that the realization for the really wealthy is, I've made it. Let's not lose it. Let's grind out. Even if we can grind out 5, 6, 7, 8, 9%, whereas the rest of the market's looking at us and going, hey, I did 24 last year. Like, I'm just going to perpetuate. Okay, good luck. But their realization is, I'm willing to give up some of the cream on the high end to, in a normalized market, you'll outperform. In a down market, you'll lap the field. And I'm oversimplifying here, but I think that's directionally fair. And that's something that they're perfectly fine with. What they don't want is that sense of anxiety in their life that distracts them from what they're doing so well already. And that's exactly where they're focused.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that I know a few folks that I would throw in the top 1% of the 1%. And I too think they're very much pulling back, conserving, keeping powder dry, keeping cash, right? We're not even talking CDs or treasuries. It's like cash. A lot of these guys I know have more cash as a percentage than they've ever had because they just don't know, right? That's cash is the great equalizer. But the other thing I know about these folks, and this is a guess because you never know the future, if things get wacky enough and we have a disturbance in the economy and we have a reset in values, right? You talked earlier episode about if we have a recession, earnings go negative, multiples collapse. I suspect a lot of these folks will eventually get aggressive. Now, that might mean stocks, but I think most of these folks go on a buying binge of assets, right? Taking over businesses. Because I think one thing that's going to happen in this environment is some small and medium-sized business whose supply chain was over-indexed to China are simply going to go out of business.
Yeah.
So that's what I think is coming.
You're 100% correct. A lot of folks come to us and say, we are conservative or we're moderate kind of risk tolerance. When the time is right, we have the ability to get aggressive. It's not that our stomach can't necessarily handle it. It's when we look at things and things don't make sense on the high end, we're fine sitting down and just sitting on our hands. When we look at things and you get a washout in the market, they're like, I've been here.
I know how this feels. Yeah.
Here. Exactly. How do you think I got the way I got? Because I took risk, calculated risk. And I will push back on you on one thing. One of the things that we don't allow folks to do that are our clients is sit on cash. We have this quote that says cash is for purchases. Okay. So, but with that, cash is most people's risk buffer, right? Yes. And what you have to have is a very skillful hand if you're not going to hold cash. And I say cash is for purchase. Cash is a riskless asset. Over time, cash will underperform everything. There will be
Everything.
times
Yep.
where it outperforms some assets. But what you need is a skillful hand to understand portfolio construction. There need to be pieces that have low correlation, which is the number one statistic that you look at when you're building portfolios. How do these assets work together? Do I have something in the portfolio that is a risk asset that will actually do really well during a recession? Yes. And so therefore, again, otherwise, if you have cash, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to do with cash?
Yeah. How scared are you to keep cash?
You're trying to time the market. You cannot time the market.
Yeah. Well, I think Warren Buffett is the greatest example. I don't remember where he's at, but I think the last quarterly report I saw, he had $320 billion in treasuries.
Yeah. Let me tell you a little something on this.
Yeah.
Warren Buffett would own 0 treasuries if he was able to not own treasuries. Why is that? Because he is very, very, very smart and he understands portfolio construction. What does Warren Buffett have a problem with? That he has $300 billion.
Exactly.
And the only asset that is large enough, liquid enough, and deep enough to move quickly are treasuries. It's not because it's his favorite investment.
No, it's a deep pool. He doesn't want to move the market. He comes into something else esoteric.
Correct. We talk all the time about infrastructure. So like infrastructure is something where we've been saying this year, this is a great way to play the back end of AI. Why? Because you don't want to buy NVIDIA at 80 times earnings or these magnificent 7 stocks at unconscionable earnings. So instead, we love the AI trend too. But what we want to do is play on the power production side.
Yep.
We don't have enough electricity. So banging on that side, our infrastructure right now, equity stock is up 5% this year. Warren Buffett would love that. The correlation is holding up exactly as it has throughout history, showing that it truly diversifies a portfolio. But guess what? It's $100 billion space.
Yeah, he can't play there.
He can't.
He just can't play there. Yeah. So at the end of the day, I think it's fair to say, to kind of go back to where we opened, the top 1% of 1%, frankly, are just like everybody else, right? There's always that joke, they put their pants on the same way.
Yep.
They're just as confused. They're just as uncertain. They just have more zeros behind their pocketbook. But I do think it's interesting that we both agree that at some point, right, these folks are used to taking risk.
Oh, yeah.
And they will move, and they will move quick when they perceive the time is right.
Yep. Blood in the streets, they act. That's where they made their wealth in the past. That's where they'll make it again if they get the opportunity to do so. But in the meantime, they're fine sitting in second gear.
There you go. Well, where can people find you?
Yeah, find us at LifeGoal Investments. We're both on Instagram, on TikTok, 60-day clips or 60-second clips every single day.
Folks, yeah, if you're not tuning into the 60-second clips, I don't know how he has like a time stretcher or something. He's cramming 10 minutes of material into 60 seconds. Tune in every day. LifeGoal Investments.
You're
Thanks,
the man.
buddy.
Thank you.